see face to face.
Hello.
Anna and Michael here in Canberra. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Nick.
Hi there. Anna looks like she's got new glasses.
It's a new Anna.
It's a new Honey Anna, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I did well picked up, Nick.
Just to let everyone know, we're broadcasting live now.
Okay, thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Nick.
Okay, thanks, Stephen, and welcome all. So we have a new year and a new few people. So I'm just going to get straight on through the agenda as supplied to me by Stephen, and Stephen's been doing quite a lot of work behind the scenes. Thanks, Stephen, to just get cracking on a whole lot of things. So we've also got apologies from James Client, who's pretty snowed under. I think his partner is not is a bit incapacitated, and he's having to spend a fair bit of time there. So changes to the board. David Flanders is retiring. It says for action minute the change, so we better minute the change. But I thought that it said he was retiring for action, and well, there you are. I hope he sees the action that he's retiring for. Treasurer position. Nominations from within the board. So where are we on that, Steve? I mean, we should have some time for that, presumably.
Yes, so we can perhaps look back to it, but the reason why I put that in is that in one of the updates, Anna mentioned the bank account, and that for the bank account we need a delegation of authority that's minuted under the board meeting for an administrator of the bank account.
Oh, okay, so we should do that now?
Well, we can discuss it. So my suggestion is that we actually have a treasurer position.
Yeah.
And that person and potentially the chair are administrators of the bank account. And the discussion that would go with that, I guess, would be who keeps the books. The treasurer would at least have a hand in who keeps the books.
Yeah.
If we have a subcontract for someone to actually do it, or if it's occurring through someone, a benefactor like NICTA, then the treasurer has to be aware of what's going on and be able to report to the board.
Yeah.
Because we can't always assume that NICTA is actively involved in staying on top of the books, even though they may have a subordinate within the organisation doing the books.
Yeah.
So that was it. So I was just going to suggest that people could put their names in there if they want to nominate themselves from within the board to be the treasurer.
Yeah.
So we just type it into
yeah, David Flinders has advised he can't join today. And someone's writing some stuff in. Oh no, that's just minute taking. All right, well...
Just before we move off, Dave, would it be appropriate for a formal acknowledgement of all the work that he's done in supporting open knowledge, particularly the establishment of it?
Indeed.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that something from you? I know there's been some emails floating around, but something formal from perhaps you, Nick, would be nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I'm certainly happy to do that. I mean, I guess what I might do is just send David an email and copy it to others and have it minuted.
Nice.
So I'll make a note to do that. Rightio, co-secretary for action, nominations from within the board, vote and minute person taking on the position.
So that's basically the same thing, where we need to have a second secretary.
Yep. So yeah, so who's going to be doing that?
I'll put myself down.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
I've nominated myself for treasurer simply because I've got a business through which I can do bookkeeping if we need to.
Yep.
And my idea would be that I'll do a blog post and open it up for more broad community communication discussion on the blog regarding spending activities, delegation to spend, requests to spend, sponsorship stuff, and there's more to talk about in other discussion points below.
Okay.
Considering how much you've been keeping everyone
Sorry, the sound's terrible. I think that's
the board stuff recently. I totally support the nomination.
Thank you.
I didn't hear that, but anyway, if if Stephen said thank you, it sounds pretty good. So I'll just move on. Okay, so I'm going to move on to updates. Yeah, Maya supports this. Okay, so updates, entity establishment. Oh my God, we're still back here. So incorporation. Michael. Okay, so do you want to update us, Michael, quickly?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Nick. Look, the Open Knowledge has been established, incorporated as a not-for-profit. The action item for today is related to Stephen's point about treasurer. We need to decide who will have administrator status and who will have authoriser status for the bank account. That's the final piece of work that's required, establishing the bank account. So I think Stephen's thinking is that the treasurer would be the administrator, and then as administrator he can nominate people from within the community as authorised access, to have authorised access to the account. So that's the question for the board.
Yeah, so if we can go back to that treasurer position, if that's basically voted on and done, that needs to be minuted so that we can take this to the bank and say this person has the formal role of treasurer, co-secretary, etc., for all the other positions in the board as well.
Correct.
I think we're also going to need to nominate the authorizers though as well, like at the same time while we do these minutes now.
Yeah, okay.
So when I take these to Commonwealth Bank.
Yeah, we can add and remove authorisers, over time. But if you want to provide access to somebody now, Stephen, it'd be best to nominate them in the same.
Okay, so my vote is for Nicholas Gruen and myself to be administrators. It's always good to have a backup in case someone gets hit by a bus. And for authorisers, assuming that administrators can authorise as well,
yes.
I would put Fiona and Anna as authorisers, considering that Maya's off in Africa at the moment, and then we've got basically executive board members all holding some role. And just for the audience, it's important to note that whether you're an administrator or authoriser is just a function of the facility that the bank has for spending of money. It doesn't mean that people won't be authorised to pursue the spending of money within the community. We'll have avenues for that.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yep. I'm happy with that.
All right. So we're now up to GovHack 2015 preparations. Stephen, I don't think there's any further items on the entity establishment. So, Stephen, over to you.
Cool. So just a quick update. I was in touch with Jeff Mason on this just to get his most recent update. He says that everything's going well for planning of the GovHack event. Sponsorships are being confirmed within the corporate sector and government sector.
Stephen, can you give me a date for that, and I'll put it in my calendar so I know when it is. You know when the date is?
3rd of July.
Okay. Rightio.
Is the kickoff date.
What?
Okay.
And how long does it run for?
It's the 3rd to the 5th of July from memory, so it starts a Friday night, ends on a Sunday.
Okay.
That's typically it. Someone can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong.
No, that's right.
The only other point on GovHack preparations is it's not yet confirmed where the red carpet event will be, but that's one of the things that's ongoing at the moment.
Sorry, can you? What about the red carpet thing? Oh, you don't know where it'll be.
It's what, as an update, it's not yet confirmed where the red carpet event will be, as in what city, etc. And that's ongoing.
So Brisbane did Brisbane go it last year, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we were interested in having it in Melbourne, but David and I feel that we really don't have another event in us at this point. I believe that Adelaide and Sydney are both possibilities. Last time I spoke to Pierre, but watch this space, I guess.
Yep. All right.
Can I just add to Stephen's update, Nick?
Go, Michael.
Thanks. Just for everybody's information, the cluster and NICTA have done all of the financial administration or bookkeeping for GovHack for the past few years, and we will do that again this year, which means the GovHack funding will basically go through NICTA's accounts and out to all of the people who need to be paid. The reason for that is that we didn't think that the open knowledge account would be established in time. We're actually into it already. So just probably next year will be the first year on prediction that GovHack will be the bank for, that Open Knowledge will be the bank for GovHack.
Okay, thanks. Do you know, Michael, what I'm quite interested in what the sponsorship spend is. Last year it was pretty impressive at $250,000. Got any tips on what it's likely to be this year?
Well, I know that I was speaking with Jeff just the other day that they've already got $70,000 worth of sponsorship queued up, ready to be invoiced. The other party in this, again for everybody's information, is Partners for Prosper, I think they're called.
Jan Bryson.
Yeah, she does the sponsorship invoicing and so on.
Yeah.
Last year, $500,000 went through the books here for GovHack. In $2,000 transactions, so it was a lot of work.
Oh God! So does that mean that it's cost twice as much as the sponsorship?
No, there was the sponsorship covered, all of the costs, and there was about 20,000, I think, surplus from last year.
So so does that mean that there was a $250,000 sponsorship from some government source that I don't know about?
The figure that we've got is 500,000 approximately. It was a bit under, but close to that. Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting confused. It was $500,000 and that it had risen by $250,000 that year. Anyway,
Nicholas, I think you're possibly conflating the central national sponsorship and the total figure, because a lot of the states had separate sponsorship which they got from local state and local governments, and I think you're conflating those figures.
Yeah. Okay. So they're better than I thought they were.
We'll confirm that.
Either way, I'd probably just add for Nicholas's benefit, there is an annual report on the website on last year's activities, so for his information he should probably review that and we'll just bang through the agenda.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go on from that to CCAN. Stephen's going to talk to that.
So the quick update there is, there's a few things. There's a new version of CCAN released, which is 2.3. But more recently, I've been added into the steering group for the CCAN Association. So the association is nominally the group that's going to steer the project moving forward. There's 4 or 5 people in the association, so it's a pretty good position for someone within Australia to sort of get into and help to steer that project. Within the project, I'm working on community and communications initiatives, and I think there's a really good opportunity, seeing as there's so much activity in Australia around open data at the moment, for us to leverage all of this and be seen as something of a world leader, move ahead of the game in some respects. So I hope to report more on those sorts of activities into this forum over time.
Okay, right.
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you. Networking community, website updates. then list discussions, then Melbourne meetup. So website updates.
Yeah, so just the simple fact that over the last few months there have been a lot more website updates, due largely in part to the Melbourne meetup group really coming together and having some great events. So that's fantastic to see. There's been a few other sporadic blog posts with regards to the Open Data Index, with regards to International Open Data Day, and a few other updates. So I'm keen for us to move forward and then get the ambassadors to really see that platform as a vehicle through which they can communicate to the broader community. The second update there that I'll talk about is list discussions. There's been some really good list discussions lately, so that's the OKFN list. And what I hope is that we can start encouraging people to kind of do an editorial of some of those discussions and turn them into a blog post. So we can make that conversation or those ideas and insights and experiences more public for everyone. And that's it in terms of network and community updates generally on those 2 points.
Okay.
Can I just raise there, it's a discussion we've been having periodically in Melbourne, is the fact that the website is kind of ugly and difficult to navigate. And again, it's maybe a discussion for offline, and maybe it's just a matter of a group of us sitting down and having a sprint to fix up some of the website mess. But we've certainly, on the discussion list, someone saying he would like to get involved, but it wasn't easy to find by the website, how he could contact somebody locally. So maybe it's a future action, but if we can put some thought into tidying up the website.
I'd be a fan of that. I know that there's the staging site for the new look and feel of the OKFM blog farm. I haven't been directly involved with that, but I know Lachlan's looking at that and identifying a couple of bugs here and there. There's a transition, so how much we invest in the current website in terms of information architecture and content versus do we do that in one hit when the new look and feel is available. Perhaps what we could do is we do this in the CCAN Association. We basically have a different base camp for community and communications and just pull together everyone's ideas who's interested and they collaborate for a base camp. So I could set one of those up and we can do that if you like. Start to get everything happening there.
Yeah,
okay.
Sounds good.
Yep, sounds good, Steve.
All right, well, I'll take that as an action and set up a base camp for community and communications for OKFM.
Yep,
Okay.
sounds good.
So I think we're finished that. We finished that item. We and so we go to planning actions.
Well, I had the item in there for Melbourne meetups in case someone wanted to speak to that more specifically.
So does anyone want to say more about that?
Do you want to take it, Maya, or shall I?
That's you, Fiona.
Okay. No, I'm
Sorry, I was
Maya
mute.
wanted to...
Can anyone actually hear me? Now you go.
Yeah, so we've been running a weekly meetup in Melbourne, which has been going really well. We sort of alternate between having guests and a more structured activity, or nights which we call Shut Up and Hack, where people work on an open activity of their choice. So we've got a few longer term projects which people are starting to work on regularly at the meetup, but also lots of guests, which has been great. The meetup itself has about 500 members now in Melbourne. We happily don't get them all turning up at once. I don't know what we do if they did. So we typically get sort of a dozen or so coming along, depending on the evening. And I think we get more to speakers than we do to Shut Up and Hack nights. But yeah, hoping that it will provide an environment where people can, I suppose, get to know each other, keep working on projects which come out of hackathons so they don't just die after the weekend. And also hoping to use the meetup as, I suppose, a bit of a GovHack training ground where people can start to get to know sort of tools and data and think about their approach to take a little bit of the pressure off the Friday night, the GovHack.
Sounds great.
Yeah, well done.
And nowhere else is anything like that happening, is there?
No, we've got a really big group of ambassadors in Melbourne, which I guess, or sort of local organisers in Melbourne, which makes it possible. But I understand there are some things starting to happen in Sydney. And
Right.
did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, we're planning to start monthly meetups in Sydney. I don't think we could sustain a weekly meetup. That seems a bit too frequent for us. But I'm in talks with Kelvin to start that this year and get regular monthly activity happening.
And I think it's you. There's a terrible noise, a sort of static noise when you talk.
Oh, sorry. Not sure what's going on.
Well, no, but it's got worse. When you talk, when you don't speak, it does sound like it's at your end. The shocker. Oh well.
The other thing I've noticed on the list, Anne, is Rosie, who does Budget Oz, talking about getting some meetups going. So it'd be great if you could loop in with her.
Yeah, that's right. There was a state library I was emailing about this morning. Yep, I've signed up for that.
Great.
Okay. Thank you. So we've talked about Melbourne meetups and Sydney meetups and some others. Okay, so planning actions, assisting with GovHack 2016, 2016.
That's something I put in there. In fact, the first bunch of those I've put in there. That one in particular is just to acknowledge that by 2016 we need to be taking over the load that NICTA's carrying for GovHack. So, establishing a bank account, but more than that, having the capacity to do bookkeeping and just administer the basics of things like that. So looking at that as the end goal, what do we have to work backwards on to make sure we're in a suitable state that GovHack will actually accept us as we're helping them out, because really we need to show to those guys that we're confident that we have everything in place and that we're not going to let them down. That then moves on nicely to the second point, which is clarifying the role of the board in the context of the community. I had a quick chat to Pia about this yesterday just to get her idea on extending the metaphor of the upside-down umbrella a little bit. If you consider the umbrella an old English style with that sort of a hooked handle, if it's upside down, it actually needs something to be hooked onto to carry that load. So whilst we have an upside-down umbrella that helps to support all of these disparate community organisations broadly defined by the open knowledge community, how do we hook onto that as a board and provide the structure and governance needed for things like funding programs, grant schemes, sponsorships, insurances, etc., administration, bookkeeping, and in a way that makes sure that the community knows that they own the direction, conversation, and the voice of OKAU, and we're there just to support it from almost an administrative and governance point of view. So that's what that point was about. That then moves nicely on to the next one, which is rotation of board members. It was intended that the first group of board members would be, I think, 18 months to 2 years or something like that, and that we should consider how a rotation or a refreshment should occur. With a couple of people off the list, with David sort of retiring out of the board recently, it's probably a good time now to consider whether we do nominations for board members and ask everyone whether they're keen to stay on the board more formally, and we perhaps put that in as a set program where if we end up having something like 8 board members relatively permanently, on an ongoing basis, that every 3 months that 2 of them may rotate out for re-nomination, allowing the community to put anyone else in for nomination, and we go through a process to meet candidates, to then put to those candidates set questions of how they'd improve OKAU, what their commitments are going to be, what kind of skills and talents they have, what energy they have, and then if we ran that every 3 months, it's a really good way to rotate fresh talent in, make sure that no one gets burnt out, and that the best ideas are endorsed by the community on an ongoing basis.
3 months sounds like a really short turnaround to me. I feel that that would be a lot of admin and you would lose continuity and organisational knowledge. I mean, I like the model. I'm just concerned that 3 months is a little short for that.
So the idea is every 3 months there's only 2 people that are up for, there's only 2 positions, so 2 board members effectively retire or put their name forward as up for renomination. But over the course of a year, then potentially everyone's been refreshed.
And would that be every year? Because they're around that, by the time there's been knowledge handover, it's time to leave, really.
Well, so for example, if I was to be one of the people for renomination, it could be that I end up on the board for 8 years because I'm elected or whatever the term would be. If I'm doing a good job, if I'm helping the community, if I'm not making enemies, if I'm not burning bridges, all that kind of stuff. That's the idea. So longevity, what do they call it? Service, is citizenship, or service gains citizenship. So you need to be involved. You need to be active. You can't just be a name on a list. It is the idea.
Okay. So rather than rotating out, your suggestion is that every 3 months, of those 2 board positions.
Yeah, just two people every 3 months, and there's a bit of a queue. And if people want to opt out earlier, then they can put themselves up for retiring for a particular quarter.
And is there okay? I actually still think that's too short. I really like the idea of 2 positions every so often and having 2 different positions renominated at a different time to all the others. I think a change every 3 months is a bit difficult, especially considering we're only meeting once a quarter. That means at every single board meeting, renominations and a potential new member, and getting to know each other in between the quarterly meetings.
Would 6 months work better?
Maybe.
I mean, I agree that it's great. As Stephen suggested, it's a way for people who are no longer able to be actively involved to sort of cycle themselves out, and I think that's good for the board.
Yeah, I think 3 months is too soon as well. I'd be more inclined to 12 months personally. I think people would find that their workloads wax and wane through the course of the year, and they can commit more at some times.
Yeah, that's true too. I think that's a fair point. But given the state of this, you sometimes jump in and do quite a lot of work, and sometimes you can't.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's something that has to be decided immediately. We've got a whole bunch of people still on the board. There's relatively a large number there still now anyway. We've just designated a whole bunch of positions, so there's no absences. Perhaps we should take it to the community, do a blog post, and actually write something up that everyone can contribute to.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, that's a good idea. Are you happy?
Okay.
Sorry.
Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Just back to the first point, Steve, assisting GovHack 2016. Notwithstanding the discussion we just had about rotating board members on and off and so forth, essentially what you will require is an administrative capability within the Open Knowledge organisation. If you want to support GovHack in similar ways that we have in the last few years. We are trying to automate the whole process this year more than we've done previously, so that it'll be as streamlined as possible. But nevertheless, I think you would need a company secretary or administrator.
I think we would need to employ someone as a community manager to do that work.
That's right. Yeah, and that would be a paid position presumably.
I was going to make the same point.
Yeah. So that works on nicely to the next point, which is development of funding program. I've done a little bit of work on that. The same company that's working with GovHack Partner and Prosper. I've gotten some preliminary costings on how much they charge in order to set up a sponsorship program, workshop, create packages, make sure that they're competitively shaped. Yep.
Maya?
Look, while we're still talking about rotation of board members, my question is about how we actually get nominations from the public. And I know we've been talking about doing it via blog post. Realistically, who is it that's going to vote, and how are we going to ensure that that happens?
So I posted something up on the Basecamp about that, which I can also put in the blog post. My experience with the Drupal Association a little while back is that nominations were open for anyone. I believe you might have had to have been a Drupal member, a paid member of the Drupal Association. We don't have such a thing, so I think nominations would have to be opened by anyone, for anyone. On the voting side, so there's been a meet the candidates type process, and if you had 50 million candidates, which I don't think we've ever had, that could become a problem, but let's deal with that if it is a problem. But on the voting process, what I was going to suggest is that at least for the near term, we have ambassadors, topic or local ambassadors being the people who vote, and any retained board members vote. So collectively they vote on those people. We might then also open it up to the community, but on a weighted basis. So we might say that if there's 20 votes, we might say that 6 of those votes are from the community, weighted by some sort of like an idea scale type upvote system, and then they go into the mix as well.
Okay. All right. So use something like Lumio, for example.
Yeah.
Maybe that's another question for us, for the community. But yeah, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good to me.
Okay. So then just moving on to that other one, development of the funding program. As I mentioned, I've started talking to Jan to get costings on what she charges effectively. I won't reveal those now publicly because it's sort of her commercial confidentiality and such. But what I will say is that my company, well actually not me, I'm considering personally investing in OKAU, sort of like a personal loan to fund that.
Sorry, Stephen, investing in what?
In OKAU.
Yeah.
So if we find that OKAU needs $10,000, for example,
yeah.
in order to fund a program of work which will create a funding program, I'm considering whether or not I would actually just put that and put it into the OKAU as a loan, with the idea that if the funding program is successful, which is the gamble, that money is paid back.
Okay.
So whether that's, if that moves forward, I'd be asking for a sort of like out of meeting decision as to whether or not that kind of stuff is appropriate, a proposal put forward to board members as to whether we should go ahead with it, with a business case for doing it, and that's something that I'm happy to put together.
Okay.
But bear in mind, the idea is that if OKAU Australia, if OKAU is going to take over the GovHack responsibilities, then one of the things we do have to take over is probably the management of that particular contract. And it makes sense that GovHack is just one of the things that can be funded over a 12-month program. And it makes sense for us to package together all sorts of things. So the meetups in Melbourne could be co-sponsored. That could become part of a package where people sponsor both GovHack and Melbourne meetups. There's all sorts of things that we package up together to create a broad funding program for activities.
Okay.
So, Stephen, I think that's a great idea. And actually, one of the things that's been happening in the background is we've been looking to create an ongoing partnership with ThoughtWorks, a time-limited one, along the same kind of terms that you're talking about, which is support and partnership of all the different kinds of events that Open Knowledge do. And we've been talking about it here in Melbourne, but ThoughtWorks supports all kinds of stuff. you know, everything from actually quite a fair bit of sponsorship and time and effort and venue support for events like GovHack and HealthHack. And they're the ongoing venue for the Melbourne events. So this is another thing that's in the background, but maybe that's a conversation for us to have offline, how we're going to manage all of these together.
Yeah, potentially. Going back to Michael's point, having an administrative assistant that's actually paid for by OKU is kind of important in a number of ways. It's not just to do administration, it's to have some independence so that you don't get conflicts of interests. I obviously have a company that's private sector that has commercial interests, ThoughtWorks have commercial interests. How do we manage the kind donations that these corporates want to put in place without allowing them to have too much control of the conversation or influence? And the only way to do that is to basically take their money or take their services, but administer it through an independent party that's 100% managed by the community through the board.
If I could just comment as well.
Yep, I agree with you.
You sort of touched on something, Stephen, that was on my mind. Looking forward, I can see that we'll have potentially two or more sources of funding, sponsorship, which has in the past funded GovHack, but we could go for a more generic sponsorship arrangement to fund a range of activities, as you say. And then there could be funding that we get directly by applying for grants or other sources. And in the case of sponsorship, normally commercial organisations will want something in exchange for the sponsorship. So we'll need to develop some rules around, recognition and all the other things that would apply in that particular category of funding. So I know it's early days, but we probably need to develop some policies in a few key areas like this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's what Jan does. She basically develops the package as this first stage. Second stage, then actually puts it into the market, literally brands it, makes it competitively appropriate for other packages. And then the third thing she does is administration ongoing. To not only take the money, but also make sure that the benefits are delivered to sponsors and parties getting involved.
Okay.
Okay. So we're done on. We're done on development of funding program. We're done on supporting ambassadors.
I think I also added that point just as a wrap up of everything above. Just that if we clarify the role of the board, if we're honest in the way that we sort of rotate ourselves through the community, if we develop a funding program, then it makes it more clear how we can support ambassadors. But there's a very active role that we need from board members at the moment, which is just to ping ambassadors and try to get them to post on the blog post, just get involved in whatever way they can so that they see that they are the ones driving the organisation, not us. It needs to be grassroots, it needs to be bottom up. And that's the sort of support that we need. We need to inspire them to get into the grass and actually do that work and run events, all that kind of stuff.
Something I would really like to do, and I know the idea's been kicked around a little bit, possibly after GovHack Red Carpet or around that time, would be to get the local ambassadors together, actually have some bonding time face to face, because I feel, being scattered around the country, that's something we don't get. And just, I suppose, share some ideas about what we're doing, what works, what doesn't, how we can support local activities ongoing.
Yeah, did we have an item in there for the OK Festival? Did we skip it?
I I believe that ideas about an OK Festival for Asia Pac have been shelved for the moment. Last conversation I had with David, we were thinking it's probably a 2016 project rather than 2015 project.
Yeah. I just thought we had something in the agenda.
I think it was on the base camp but didn't make it into this agenda.
Oh, oops. Yeah, that would be my mistake. So, well, we can talk about that in other business, which is coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're in other business. I don't know where we are actually. Well, we've got interaction with the International OK organisation. So why don't we go to that?
Yep, that's one that I put on the agenda. I wanted to raise for discussion the topic of in what ways we might want to interact with the International Open Knowledge Organization. They have a number of activities, working groups, events such as the annual OK Festival.
The sound is beyond me. I can't hear you, Anne. You started off okay and then went silent. Is that other people's experience?
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
However, I think I know. I caught much of that.
Let me try this microphone. Can you hear me?
Yeah. That's much better.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. I'll replace that headset. Okay, so the interaction with the International OK organisation, they've got a number of activities, working groups, and annual events such as the annual Open Knowledge Festival. I just wanted to put that on the agenda for discussion about how we might want to interact with them. Whether we want to participate in those things, if so, how would we fund it? Whether we want to have representatives on the working groups, and just general discussion about interaction with the international organisation.
Okay. Now we've got exactly 15 minutes till the end of the meeting, so I'm just trying to let's talk about that. Then we've got Health Hack 215 and beyond, OKCon, questions from audience community, further community. So sounds like we've got time. So anyway, press on. Any comments?
My simple point on that is that Dave actually had a wealth of knowledge about how OK International is run because he had so much experience there. So it's probably just good to stress that loss and how thankful we are that he actually had all that experience and how useful it was. I met with Rufus the week before last to talk about some stuff in London, and that was in relation to OK Fest. I don't actually know all of the activities that Open Knowledge is involved in, but I'm aware of a bunch of the ones that I'm interested in. I think all we can do is basically get those who have done the research, have gotten involved, and support and encourage them. Where there are people with those domain-specific interests, then we endorse them from an AU perspective and help them sort of have a voice as a representation from the AU perspective in any way that we can. So it could be that one or two people can actually afford to go to the next festival wherever it is. Let's get behind those people and try and give them some voice so that everyone knows that Australia is represented. There might be one or two people in Open Glam and movement, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I guess, Stephen, you're suggesting that it's up to people in the community to kind of self-nominate and self-fund to participate?
Yeah, I mean, that's broadly how it works anyway, from what I've seen. People are doers, and you need people who do stuff, not just people who say that they're associated with something. So as soon as we spot those doers, we should be getting behind them and amplifying their voice, giving them support.
Okay.
Any other comments?
I guess I think the year ahead is going to be pretty busy in getting set up to take over GovHack in 2016. I'd still like to see something done about all of the code that's developed through the GovHacks nationally. It just sort of ends up floating around in the ether and some sort of consolidation, or at least register of all that's been developed and how people can access it if it's of use. I think that would be a useful, practical thing to do.
Certainly would.
So that's sort of my thinking for the year ahead.
So
I'm not disagreeing with it. Our priorities are different.
Michael, just to take up that point, how hard would that be? I mean, how hard would it be to try and incorporate that into GovHack this year? And I don't know. I mean, I just presume you would have a process of anything that was entered or anything that won a competition would be, the code would go on GitHub in some. Yeah, with a link and so on. I mean, what's involved? Doesn't sound that hard.
No.
All the projects are listed in the hackerspace, and all the winners are listed on the website.
I think perhaps the point is that it is all together, it is all available, but it's not been packaged up and put forth into the international community to represent the activity that's going on here. I think the annual report that the GovHackers prepared last year is a good example of that. When the next annual report comes out, we should really dress that up and put it forward into the international community. Events like the International Open Data Conference at Ottawa are a perfect forum for us to try and get someone there who would be willing to present the GovHack case study, that sort of thing. But yeah, literally tracing it all the way back to the code so that people can see where it is. We're using the hackerspace, it is on the website, it is available.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Health Hack 215 unless someone wants to keep talking about that. Health Hack 215, who wants to talk about that?
That's me. I was just want to give a quick update that Health Hack 2015 is in fact going ahead. With me going to be out of Australia, Fiona is going. Hasn't been set. It's normally in the last weekend of tradition. And it's going to be.
Sorry, missed it. Last week when?
Last weekend of October.
Okay.
Late October, sometime. And I'm going to be out of the country, so Fiona is going to be at the helm. And we've got confirmed organisers for Melbourne, Sydney, Perth. Perth is still TBA, but looking quite Brisbane.
Terrific.
Yep. That's pretty much all I wanted to do. Just give everyone an update that is definitely going ahead. We've got conversations with the BioMelbourne network about how to manage a couple of the things around that, but that's it for now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Con.
So I guess that's the point that I was raising. So it's OK Festival rather than Con, but when I spoke to Rufus, the idea was that if Australia was to try and host an APAC-centred OK Fest, there's a chance that he might be able to get a little bit of money together from whatever sources he has access to through open knowledge, and that would be a good start. Taking that as a good indicator, I had a couple of chats with people. Someone from the CSIRO is quite interested in Open GLAM and said that if we put a paper together, they would certainly consider it if we put it together quite soon. I also spoke to someone from the New Zealand government, and they're quite interested in participating. I won't name anyone just because of the private conversations. I don't want to publicly say that they said stuff unless they didn't want it to be put out there. But if we can get them on board and basically go through a process with someone like Jan from Partner and Prosper, that would be a good ramp up to a 2016 activity. What Fiona was saying earlier about having a meetup after the red carpet event, I think is necessary for that as well, because we need to galvanise the community, let people see each other's faces, and create a platform upon which a successful event could be run. So I think all of this is working backwards from being able to work with GovHack in 2016 as well. This is our test. if we can do all the preparatory work needed to get involved with OK First by, say, March or April next year, that would just be fantastic. And I think that's the audacious goal that we should be setting for ourselves as a board. And that's what we should be rallying people towards as a cause.
Agreed. Okay. So, any comments on that?
I agree. Like it.
Yep. Okay. So we're going on to questions from audience/community.
Yep. So I can see we've got 3 viewers. We may not have too many people watching this, but it'll be posted later.
Where am I? Where can you post a link to where you see those questions?
There's no questions as yet. I'm just saying there's 3 viewers. But the bottom right corner of the Etherpad is where there's a chat that people can post questions.
Yeah, I can see that, but there's nothing there. There's the Fiona and Anne have made some comments. That's it.
Yeah, so that's okay. It's just another business point. If there were any questions, this is when we have it. And then the last point there is if we wanted to go back to anything, having covered the whole agenda, now would be the time.
Yep. All right. Well, Fiona, no?
Oh, I mean, maybe it's something to follow up offline, but just how what the financial situation for OK is at the moment. I know there was some money left over from GovHack last year that had been earmarked for community building in Victoria. It was left over from the state government funding which we received, and they were quite definite about it going into community building activities here. And I guess just yeah, I mean, and, obviously with getting a treasurer online, and that's I suppose all coming, but.
I'll have to answer that now that I've got the treasurer hat, I guess.
Alrighty.
I have the exact same question. All I know from last year is there was a little bit of money back through to Open Knowledge Australia from the GovHack event. Where that sits as in trust with NICTA is what I probably understand it to be sitting, and it's awaiting the bank account to exist to be transferred across. Then it would be awaiting, basically as soon as I know, I'll just publish it. I'll do a blog post and say this is the state of the nation about the finances.
Thanks, that'd be great. Because then we've got a few expenses just, buying dip and crackers and hosting the meetup and things, and it'd be nice to be able to reimburse our volunteers.
Okay. Do we have anything else? We have 4 minutes sharp. I've got to head off myself, and we try and close these things on time. Are there any other?
I'd probably just add one administrative point. Normally you wait to approve the minutes at the next meeting. I think we need to approve the minutes for the purpose of the bank process this week, perhaps. So every board I'm on, I request, I either request or something stronger than that we try and get the minutes done as soon as possible after the meeting. It just makes a lot more sense to me. Yeah. Everybody's memory's fresh. It's a piece of work that's done, and so on. And if there are, it's possible you can hold over some matter about how something's been recorded till the next meeting if necessary, but usually it's not necessary. You sort it all out by email. Yeah. So just for everyone, when you see that email come through for minutes, please reply. Please have a quick read and approve. If that's the case.
My feeling is, if people are okay with this, I don't know how quickly they can be produced. They're sort of, is that it in front of us, or will we get something? We'll
refine them and send them out.
That's right. So I'd say, how long will that take you to do?
About a day.
I'd suggest we should, as a matter of course, seek to have that sorted out within a week of meetings.
That'll be fine.
Yep. Okay.
Commit to that.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that I know of. I think if anything else comes up, I can just email you guys, but I just have the bank account on my mind, so.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Thank you all. We've been admirably punctilious and punctual and all those things, and we've got a 60-second bonus in our lives now. No, 120 seconds. So, thank you. We've got a minute that we will. What's the converse of you'll never get it back? Well, I suppose you just get it for 1 minute and that's it. But anyway, life goes on. Time ticks by. Cheers.
Ciao. Thanks, everyone. Talk
Thanks,
soon.
everyone.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.